heavy metal. A lavish rock and roll lifestyle filled with sex, drugs, and of course, music. Most importantly, they're the loudest band in England. But what if I were to tell you that this band doesn't exist? At least not in the way that you would first imagine. Parodies are one of my favourite forms of satire when done well, and parody bands have been around for quite some time. Before Spinal Tap came Eric Idle and Neil Innes's The Ruttles, a band parodying the cultural phenomenon known as the Beatles, which had its own mockumentary, All You Need Is Cash, penned by Idle before being released in 1978. Don't worry, that'll be getting its own video soon enough. Being a rock and heavy metal fan, I was immediately intrigued upon discovering that there was a similar mockumentary film about a fictional loud and large head heavy metal band based on serious documentaries like Gimme Shelter about the Rolling Stones. Naturally, I felt obligated to make a video about Spinal Tap's mockumentary, aptly titled This is Spinal Tap. So, here I am. Is this band one of the greats? Do they deserve a place in the Big Four? Let's find out. Without further ado, on with the review.
Polos is life, 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 sleep all night and then Polos is life.
The movie opens with a rather unsuccessful filmmaker, Marty DeBurgi, introducing himself. He is played by Rob Reiner, who directed this very movie along with The Princess Bride and Stand By Me later on. Off to a good start, I have high hopes for this.
I heard a band that, for me, redefined the word rock and roll. I remember being knocked out by their exuberance, their raw power, and their punctuality.
This is an interesting way to open the mockumentary, with the in-universe maker of it introducing the film and why he wanted to make it. The lack of music and intimate setting makes the segment seem a little more grounded in reality too, which I guess is what they were going for. We then cut to the band preparing for a show, interspersed with interviews with concert goers who seem a little on another planet, shall we say.
The music just unites people with the players.
Each band member is introduced in a credit-style fashion. David St. Hubbins, played by Michael McKean, on lead vocals and guitar. Nigel Tufnell, played by Christopher Guest, on lead guitar. Derek Smalls, played by Harry Shearer, on the best instrument, the bass. Mick Shrimpton, played by Rick Parnell, on drums, and Viv Savage on keyboards. Again, this type of opening is good for the mockumentary format. The band members do a great job of the whole rock and roll shtick here, and the music isn't even bad, just kind of cheesy, but it suits the genre and time that this was made. They clearly know what they're taking the piss out of. Just as a note, although this is a silly role, Rick Parnell was a real drummer in the British rock band Atomic Rooster. Marty interviews Spinal Tap about their history as a band, and they go into a very silly, convoluted backstory about how they changed names and genres several times, after forming in the 60s. I'll get more into that later.
Do I have to come right flat out and tell you everything? Give me some money.
Once more, the sound and look of the band when they were known as the Thamesmen is pretty spot on. The suits, the classic mop haircut. Is it just me, or does St. Hubbins kinda resemble mid-60s Steve Marriott from The Small Faces here? This just seems like a band that my nan would have listened to back in the day. I also appreciate the detail of the caption just saying British TV, like the channel that this clip aired on is irrelevant. The band explained that the drummer in the clip, John Stumpy Pepys, died in a bizarre gardening accident the authorities stated was better left unsolved. That doesn't sound very nice for his family, but you know, whatever. Their next drummer, Eric Stumpy Joe Childs, died by choking on someone else's vomit. I've heard of musicians choking on their own vomit, but somebody else's? What exactly are you doing for that to occur? Very odd, and the band don't seem to understand it themselves.
Well, they can't prove whose vomit it was. They don't have facilities in Scotland Yard to print.
You can't really dust for vomit.
I'd quit while I was ahead, Mick. It's not looking good for you, mate. They attend a party where the president of a record company called Polymer Records, Sir Dennis Eaton Hogg, played by Patrick McNee, welcomes them to tour the US. I assume that he has signed them. While travelling in a limo, the band haggle their manager, Ian Faith, played by Tony Hendra, and the driver suggests to Marty that Spinal Tap are selfish and spoiled in comparison to a singer like Frank Sinatra, calling them a fad. From my understanding, the rock subculture wasn't very well understood by outsiders at the time. With that being said, these guys aren't exactly helping their case with the lyrics they come out with while playing in Philadelphia.
My baby fits me like a flesh tuxedo. I like to sink her with my pink torpedo.
Excuse me? Marty reads out some scathing reviews from critics about Spinal Tap's cover art. My personal favourite being the Venus de Milo attached to an IV. It's just silly, isn't it? Somewhat reflecting the real-life controversies that rock bands were involved in at the time, Polymer Records aren't pleased with Spinal Tap's cover for their latest album, Smell the Glove, and refuse to sell it.
Ian, you put a greased, naked woman on all fours with a dog collar around her neck and a leash. And a man's arm extended out up to here, holding on to the leash and pushing a black glove in her face.
Well, that's one way to sell a record. At their next show, there was a bit that had me in stitches when Nigel tries to do that circle on the floor move that Angus Young does, but he can't, so a stagehand has to help him. It's so ridiculous. He then shows off his guitars and amps to Marty, including a special amp that has a dial that goes up to 11 instead of the usual 10. He acts like your typical proud guitar nerd, and it's kind of endearing. With the band seeming to gain more favour among fans, Marty discusses another of their 60s hits, Listen to the Flower People.
Listen, it could be calling now for you.
It definitely has a much sweeter and tranquil sound compared to their later music. They comment that the drummer that was with them at the time of that song's creation, Peter James Bond, exploded while on stage. Are they cursed or something? While practicing their other 60s hit that was discussed earlier, Give Me Some Money, David's new age girlfriend, Janine, arrives. Nigel doesn't look happy. Without consulting the band first, Polymer Records has changed Smell the Glove's album cover to simply completely black as an antithesis to the Beatles' White Album. Metallica would later do something similar in real life, even if unintentional. At another concert, Spinal Tap play a song with a more doomy sound, which admittedly is my thing.
When there was darkness and the void was king and ruled the elements.
Nobody shows up to Spinal Tap's signing of Smell the Glove, but they choose to push on and not let that discourage them on their tour. Fair to them, that's rough. They also get lost in a maze-like corridor on the way to the stage in Cleveland. Honestly, I can see that happening at a big venue that you're not familiar with and have minimal help in navigating. Wanting to adopt a more glam rock, druid-inspired image in the hopes that it will improve their success, the band have Ian order a giant prop based on Stonehenge. However, Nigel mislabels the stage piece as 18 inches high rather than 8 feet high, humiliating the band. Ian argues with them over this mishap, and when Janine proposes the idea of her co-managing the band with him, Ian quits and storms off. Tensions rise between the members after Janine antagonizes Nigel, with David distracted from the music, along with the venues getting smaller and smaller, indicating their oncoming demise. While playing at a US Air Force base in Washington, the speakers malfunction, upsetting Nigel and causing him to quit there and then. Later, David and Derek discuss putting Spinal Tap to rest, and working on other projects such as being in a musical called Saucy Jack about Jack the Ripper, and working with the London Philharmonic. You know, do what makes you happy or whatever.
You're a naughty one, Saucy Jack.
With the tour coming to an end, Nigel returns and notifies the others that their song Sex Farm has been topping the charts in Japan, and Ian wants them to tour there. David immediately turns down the offer, but when he sees Nigel supporting them from the wings, he invites him to play with them on stage. With the band back together, Mick spontaneously combusts while performing, but he is promptly replaced with Joe Mama Besser. This has to be one of my favourite films about rock music, and I really wish that I'd checked it out sooner. The plot is somewhat predictable. You know that the band is going to overcome any tribulations in one way or another by the end of the film, but the cast sell the story so well that I can forgive it for that. I'd say that the band's appearances are all pretty accurate to what they're trying to imitate, and they can all definitely play well. You can tell that they are singing and playing their instruments for real. Guest, McKean, and Shearer even wrote the film. The songs really aren't that bad, even if they're supposed to be funny. I've had "Give Me Some Money" stuck in my head for the entire time that I've been making this video. Spinal Tap's backstory is also something that I greatly appreciated as an addition, something that was necessary for the film's creation, as the dialogue was pretty much all improvised for the sake of making it seem like a real documentary, as stated in a 2019 interview with Today magazine.
We'd never heard those questions.
That was my question.
Yeah, they never heard any questions
Nope.
I was going to ask,
Nope.
and I certainly didn't know what answers they were going to
No.
get.
Yeah. Right.
No.
But that's true of every scene in the movie.
Yeah.
You had no idea what anybody else was going to say.
Their fictional biography details that they began as a skiffle group called the Originals. They then renamed themselves to the New Originals when another band that was already the Originals weren't too pleased. They were then the Thamesmen after this before settling on Spinal Tap. This is ripping on the fact that bands are kind of known to experiment with different genres, change their name and members, etc., until they find something that sticks, so that amused me quite a bit. Despite McKean, Guest, and Shearer all actually being American as well, their accents definitely are pretty decent in my opinion, although they are a little inconsistent at points, and sometimes they sound Australian to me. Again, I don't mind this too much, and it definitely doesn't spoil the characters for me. It's just something that I thought was worth noting. The humour of the film was not lost on me, with many dry lines along with some more vulgar quips. I don't want to put every funny line, as I would recommend that viewers who haven't seen this go watch it for themselves. Instead, I'll insert a really funny clip from one of the concert scenes that really caught me off guard. Now, people have wondered if there was a band that Spinal Tap was based on, but Christopher Guest has denied such, stating that the group was never based on any specific band in an article by Flavorwire, along with a Q&A by the AV Club.
Many bands would come up to us and say, "Oh, I know that's, yeah, I know who that is. Oh yeah, that's Bufter." I said, "What? That's Bufter, yeah, the guy in that band in, no, it's not Bufter, I don't even know who that was, Bufter."
However, Newsweek details that there were certain events that occurred in real life that directly inspired events in the film, like Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers getting lost on the way to the stage during a show. Not only this, but despite the film being satirical in nature, apparently many musicians find it to be very close to home. Reiner stated that he's heard a number of stories from real rock and rollers who'd watch it over and over again, and that Sting, of the Police, said that he'd seen Spinal Tap 50 times, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. It goes to show that despite it being light-hearted in tone, the film must be somewhat true to life if the people part of the genre being parodied admit that they see themselves in it to some degree. Guest, McKean, and Shearer clearly got something right at least. Personally, if I wasn't aware of them and you just told me that this was some silly heavy metal band from the 80s, I would probably believe you. Strangely, the Newsweek article then goes on to detail how Toto's drummer, Jeff Porcaro, is believed to have died some years later from inhaling pesticide. That's really creepy and sad. I don't even know what to say to that. On a lighter note, I'm sure you've all heard the phrase turning something up to 11, right? Well, apparently that originates from this film. I had no idea. Again, it really shows the cultural impact that this actually had. The members of Spinal Tap go on to state in the interview with Today magazine that originally they were having a lot of trouble getting someone to agree to make the movie, and that many people didn't like or understand the film.
We showed it in Dallas, and people said, came up to me and said, "Why would you make a movie about a band nobody's ever heard of? And one that's so bad?"
Despite this, it has gained quite the following in the years following its release. Spinal Tap even made an appearance on The Simpsons during Season 3 Episode 22, titled The Otto Show. This makes sense because Harry Shearer voices several characters in The Simpsons. Along with this Is Spinal Tap has an audience and critic score of over 90% on Rotten Tomatoes, which suggests to me that this film is finally getting the love that it deserves. They've even had live concerts. We should be seeing Spinal Tap on our screens again very soon, as Deadline released an article stating that a sequel to the film will begin filming this year. I'm really looking forward to it, and I do recommend this film. Well, that's all for this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and as always, thanks for watching.
The blue and green ones are my favorite kind, but I'll eat the colored ones from time to time, cause Polos is life, 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 Polos is life. Sleep all night and then Polos is